Hello and welcome to the Madison podcast. My name is Ben Lavender, also known as New York's favorite British mortgage broker. Welcome. And today we have another very lovely special guest, Miss Diana Romero from Compass. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. We're excited to have you on. I know that you have a lot that you can offer our audience, particularly people in the business. Because you are quite successful, not to, overly brag on your behalf. I'll brag for you so you don't have to, so don't worry.
Please spare me.
Yeah. So I know that you've had good success on social, but before we get into all that, tell the audience, please, a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you start in the business? What made you get into the business? Because I feel, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that most people, don't really grow up thinking to themselves, I want to be a realtor, I want to be a loan officer. We all kind of just fall into this business, at least most of us. So tell us please a little bit about that story.
So I joined the business 7 years ago, but I say that I've actually been in it 6 because I did take a year off in between. And I would say that I started more so, I do have a brother who's in real estate. He became a realtor several years before I did, and he had kind of been putting it in the back of my head that it's something I should think about. I had, I guess, the outside perception of real estate that it was very pushy, very salesy. So I was like, that's not my personality at all. I would suck at this.
Not at all.
I didn't think it just didn't seem to interest me at all. So I would say the real inspiration was probably, I had a best friend at the time who was an entrepreneur. He owns his own fashion brand. He does a whole bunch of things, but just seeing kind of his lifestyle of having his own business. At the time I was working a 9-to-5 that I had been at for 10 years already. He really inspired me to try to see what could I do where I could work for myself. We had began traveling together with a group of friends, and I really wanted that flexibility to be able to travel, to work for myself, and just have more of an independent lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So I can't say that it was this big awakening for real estate specifically, because at the time I didn't know how I'd feel about it, but it's what pushed me to even give it a shot and take the course and all of that.
Okay, so it was really the lifestyle appeal for you.
Right, I just wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to run my own business. So that's what called me to try it. And then after I was in it for a while, I was like, I really like this.
It's a fun business.
Yeah.
It's a fun business. And it's true that we are essentially our own bosses, but at the end of the day, our clients are our bosses.
I was just going to say, what I saw from the outside of having my own schedule is not really what it is, because as you know, your schedule revolves around everyone else's schedules.
Yeah. It's not all that it's cracked up to be.
It's not as much free time as I thought.
Yeah.
If you're
quite
busy.
the opposite.
But it does allow flexibility. I mean, we are very lucky that we can, do certain parts of the job from anywhere. You don't have to be sitting in an office with a specific time frame. And I like that. I really do enjoy that. I enjoy the people aspect. I enjoy that every day is different. It's not the same.
And you have to have self-discipline too. Right,
oh, yeah,
because when you've got all this okay, you can come and go as you please, and if you're not the type of person that says, okay, I'm going to wake up and make these calls,
right,
then
I
success
do get asked that a lot.
limited.
I feel like a lot of people ask me, I'm thinking to getting into real estate to do it part-time or to do, what do you think of it? And I never want to discourage someone from trying it, but I definitely stress that it's not as easy as it looks. It's definitely not as much free time as you think you're going to have, and it requires a lot of self-discipline and just being honest with yourself. Are you that type of person that can be your own boss? Because if you're not, it's just not going to work for you.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to that discipline, right? And it's exactly what you said too, because a lot of people see the fun side of the business, the showings, the accepted offers, the closings, on the mortgage side, the fast closing. So I'm speaking to someone right now actually who has been seriously considering getting into the business. And I'm trying to, like you said, not deter him, but tell him it's not easy. You're seeing all this success during a really, really great time in the market.
Also you've been in it for a while. You can't compare somebody just starting to to someone who's been in the business for several years, because at this point you have repeat business, and there's so much that went on. I'm sure in your first years, you have your own stories. I have my own horror stories of the first year.
And that's what I tell people. The first few years were, I wouldn't say hell, but they were
not pleasant.
They weren't fun. It's tough. The amount of rejection, the grind, the grit that
there's so much frustration that can go on, especially I was coming from, like I said, a 9 to 5 at a salary job, so I was used to getting paid every week the same day. And that was a huge,
it's tough to make that jump.
And I don't think I fully realized how long, you hear people say it, like, you may not get paid for the first 3 months or the 6 months or whatever, and like
some more.
So I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that, but like when you're actually in it, are you really going to be fine with that? So I think that the best scenario for yourself, what I try to tell anyone who asks me, is like, come into it with a comfortable amount of savings, and like really be prepared to not make money, because mentally that will help you immensely. Than if you come with the pressure of like, I have all these bills coming up and I didn't plan to not be working, or like not making income, and that's just going to lead to a lot of frustration, disappointment, and you're probably not going to last.
So, yes, there's something that you mentioned earlier that I want to touch on, but people, I feel that pushiness, they smell the desperation. They know when you don't have their best interest at heart. And I know with you, Diana, that you focus a lot on the relationship with your clients. It's not transactional for you. It's, it's a real relationship. So something that you spoke about before is before you got in, you had the stereotypical rather idea that real estate is very pushy, and I know that you don't take that approach with your clients. So can you talk a little bit, and it can be potentially a very complicated question, but how do you, because you need to push somehow or sometimes, because a lot of clients, especially during this market, can be apprehensive about buying because we're going through a market shift, even though the data says that prices are going to continue climbing because of a lack of supply for at least another 4 or 5 years. So can you talk about like, how do you balance maintaining that good relationship, but also like pushing a client for their own good to make the right decision to buy a home if it is what's best for them?
So I think that definitely one of the things that I can say I'm really proud of is the relationship that I build with my clients. I know that it's a phrase that's thrown around often, and I'm not saying that other people don't, but it can come off, to someone on the outside, it definitely can come off cliche. But I feel that I absolutely stand by it. So, and it's funny because, like you said, in this market, more than ever, I would say the relationship is what's really important, and the trust, to earn the client's trust. Because when you have to tell someone to bid, significantly over asking, because that that's what's going to get them the house they want, it's really hard to tell somebody to spend over what the asking price is if they don't trust you. So on the client side, I could say my biggest advice is have a realtor that you trust and that you are willing to take their advice, because in this market, it is so paramount to take your realtor's advice. It's so competitive right now, and if I am getting resistance from my client, it gets very hard to lead them to the house that they want. I mean, ultimately, we both want the same goal. If I know that you want a specific house, I'm going to try everything possible to get it for you, but I need to know that you're, cooperating with me. So relationships for me is so important. I'm very lucky that I have made real friends throughout the years in this business. There's so many of my clients that, I still go out to dinner with, or, invite me over for coffee, and like, I really appreciate that. But I think anyone would be lying if they say every single client you build that relationship with.
You try to,
but unfortunately some people it doesn't, for whatever reason. Maybe the personalities don't click, or maybe they're just not open to advice, or, and that does make it very difficult when that relationship is not there. How I would say that I push the relationship over the transaction is just really keeping the client's best interest in mind. Like I've had, and clients can tell you this themselves, like I absolutely will be honest and be like, I don't think this is the house for you. This is just
hear
not
that
the
much from a realtor. Yeah.
yeah. It's funny because I actually had met a lead from Zillow that I had never met before. They came in as an investor lead. They were they wanted to look at a property that they wanted to flip. So I'd never met them before. And as soon as we walked in, like, I listed everything wrong with the house and why they shouldn't buy it. And she was like, shouldn't you be trying to sell this to me? And I was like, no, I don't think that if for what you told me your goals are, this house is not going to work. If you still want to make an offer, I mean, I'm not going to tell you I won't put it in for you, but I want to know that I said what had to be said. And I would much rather keep showing you something else that would be a good fit for you than just push this house and then you buy it and you can't do what you wanted to do with it.
And I imagine, ironically, or perhaps not so ironically, is that you doing that just created more trust.
Yeah,
between the
I
two
would
of you.
say so. So, after that, like, she definitely stayed in touch with me. And, as with Zillow leads or with leads from anywhere, you don't always know that you're going to build that connection the first time. But I really try to be honest in any situation, or if there's, like, issues, like, a lot of CO issues or whatever, like, being upfront and just putting everything on the table and then letting the client make the choice. I think that the best way to form the relationship is just educating clients.
So on that subject, Diana, do you find that, especially with those clients that can be a little bit more challenging to deal with in terms of when it comes to educating them or having them believe that you have their best interest at heart, do you find that they're overeducated? Because that's honestly what I find is that, like, the few clients that I do get that have that personality trait tend to be the ones that have done an incredible amount of reading online. They think they know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something you come across too?
Yes, I would say that there's definitely, there's those type
The
of clients,
know-it-alls.
the know-it-alls that a lot of times they either work in finance themselves or they just have, studied the market extensively on their own. And I feel like what is put online, I'm not saying it's not true, because obviously market research is market research, but sometimes they don't fully trust the nuances of your specific market that you're trying to guide them to.
It depends on the market.
Yeah, it depends on the house. Like, sometimes, I don't know. There's so many factors that what their research can only take them so far. So I would say those can be difficult because it's very hard to gain the market expert position with them if they feel that they know more. But then I think on the other hand, there are also some clients that are just not willing to be educated.
Yeah.
And I think those are harder to work with, I would say, than the know-it-alls.
And those, I assume, don't tend to last very long because they're.
I don't know if you're gonna want to cut this out, but I had that experience literally just now with a client that I gave my opinion on a house that I don't think was a good fit for various issues. So I tried to educate her on what the issues were and why it would be a problem, not only down the line in this transaction, but should she choose to resell. And I believe that she just went with another realtor that just showed it. And I think they're moving forward. I'm not sure. But, I'd rather lose the client because I tried to do the right thing and not be the agent that just showed it to you regardless. So.
Yeah. Which is the harder thing, but it's the right thing
Yeah.
to do. And long term, I mean, you've been doing this 7 years. Most realtors, I don't know what the figure is, but something like 80% quit within their first year or two. So, it goes to show you that doing the right thing can keep you lasting in the business.
Definitely.
And prove some success.
And should that person have, if they're going to hate a realtor down the line, it's not going to be me.
Yeah. There's no point just pushing
Yeah.
someone into something. You lose sleep, you get stressed. I mean, at least I do. I've had multiple clients.
Oh my
where
God,
it's
yes.
stressful situations.
There's so many times that I'm like, if only they knew how much I stress over this behind the scenes.
Yeah, but we don't. But we have to remain cool.
Right.
And composed.
If people are
we
like,
can't be
oh,
the
this
stressed
is just
ones.
this is just a sale for them. No, I'm at home stressed.
Yeah, it's it could be pretty rough.
Yeah.
Over the years, I will say that it does get easier because at the end of the day, stressing out doesn't help you or the client. But even to this day, I'm almost 10 years in now, and I still get, there's at least a few files a year where I'm still very, very stressed.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
I mean, this is such an emotional purchase for people.
Yeah.
And as their realtor, you're literally the middleman to their dream home. So there's so much pressure, and when things come up, obviously you want to just go into problem solving mode, but in the back of my mind, like, that emotional factor is still there for me. Like, I care very much, and I just want to make people happy. So, like, the more that, like, you know, when I see things start getting shaky, like, and I know their heart is set on this house, like, it definitely, like, ups the ante.
But there's always something that goes, I wouldn't say wrong, but there's always some type
There's
of
always
hiccup. It's just, it's to be expected. And I tell clients this up front, like, real estate is the epitome of Murphy's Law, at least in New York. The transactions I do out of state tend to be much smoother, but in New York there's always something, and it's commonly a CO issue or a title issue on the seller side. And it's common. They're like, oh, I'm freaking out. It's like, this happens all the time. Yeah. It's really normal. Don't worry, they'll figure it out.
Because that is their only transaction to them. Like, and to me, like, it matters a lot the experience that they had. Even though, you know, we can get to the closing table, sometimes I'm just like, I'm sorry that it had to be such a bumpy, like, such a rough way to get there. Because I think people, it is normal, but I know for us, we see it because we're doing a lot of different deals at once, so we're seeing that things are going wrong in every deal. Yeah. And for the buyer, you know, who maybe this is their first time, they didn't know what to expect, and I know that the experience will stick with them, and I just hope that, like, they know that I did everything I could to make it as smooth as possible. But it's just life, and they're usually not going to be 100% smooth. I can't remember my last hiccup-free deal.
Yeah, it's a lot of them. It's normal. It's normal. And also, like, I think that the way that we react to that stuff, because the clients see you as the realtor, us as the lender, and also the attorney as well, as kind of, you know, the leaders in the transaction. So I found that when we act like whatever the issue is a big deal. If it truly is a big deal, then fine. But if it's not, then we just freak them out more. We just stress them out more.
I try to keep things as calm as possible.
Yeah. As the expert, we must remain composed. But it's true though, because they feed off our energy. If we start freaking out and the client's like, Ben, you know, the seller needs 3 more days to close, and we react like, oh my God, they need 3 more days to close. What are we gonna do? We need this, we need that. It's like, okay, as opposed to
like when somebody's commitment is expiring and they're like freaking out. It's like, this is so normal. Yeah, you just extended. Like, it's no big deal.
It literally happened the other day, and exact scenario. Client's like, Ben, my commitment's expiring, but I'm closing, 3 days after that. I'm like, okay, no problem. It's literally 2 clicks of a button, boom and boom, and we get you a new one.
Yeah.
It's really, and they're like, oh, okay, I feel much better.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. It's really that simple. So be the leader to the transaction.
And you can only hope that the other side has the same mindset, because there's so many personalities involved.
Yeah.
Maybe the seller's being difficult, or maybe the listing agent is going off of that energy and, transmitting, and sometimes it just becomes unnecessarily difficult if everyone's not on the same page of, like, as a professionals, let's try to keep everyone happy as much as possible.
I do find that a lot of unnecessary drama is created by everyone involved. It's like, it doesn't have to be like, okay, yeah, you're laughing because it's like, it's one issue that's literally, it takes someone 1 or 2 sentences to explain to me what the issue is, and then because you know me, Diana, I'm very straightforward. It's like, okay, this is how we solve it. If for some reason that doesn't work, we could also do this. I just want
to solve it. I don't know why there's so many times and throughout the day I'm like, why does it have to be like this?
I have a theory that it's primarily ego-driven.
Yes.
Because,
yes. No, absolutely.
When there's an issue, it makes them feel special.
I think there's a lot of ego in real estate, and definitely.
Isn't it? There's ego in real estate?
A little bit. There's a lot of ego, and if there's like a male-female dynamic, so there's so many, like, there's people that are just.
Yeah, you don't have to elaborate if you don't want to, but I see it all the time, and it's amazing.
Or even whether it's an age dynamic or years in the business dynamic, like, there's always like that, like, so it doesn't have to be like this.
It's funny that you say that, Diana. So this is something that happens to me like minimum once a week, and I've started to make a game out of it. So as you know, good listing agents, they call the lender to verify the pre-approval. So when I can tell, like, that the listing agent is a talker, I'll put like a timer on my phone and see how long it takes them to tell me
how long they've been in the business.
Exactly. Yeah. And the shortest amount of time I think I got was 7 seconds. but on average it's like 30 to 35.
Not
it's
even
like,
a full minute.
Yeah, not even a full minute. It's like, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm like, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Things change. I know people in the business that have, only been doing it for 2 years and they have more success than you, and vice versa. I'm not saying that, but my point is that age in the business does not dictate how good you are at your job. You can
Absolutely.
work the same year over and over and over again, but you're not evolving.
Right. And at
So,
the end of the day, we are all doing the same job. This isn't really a job that
it's not rocket science.
you don't get we're all still realtors at the end of the day, or we're all, there's
Even though we all get the same awards and the Home Snap award and the this award and the that, they've totally, I think it's hilarious because I didn't realize that Home Snap does it every quarter. Right, I thought it was like once a year that, okay, you're in the top, 90th percentile of so and so. So there's a lot of that, the humble bragging. It goes on in our business, and sometimes it's good. But even for myself, I don't do it as much as I used to because I just feel that it's so saturated.
Yeah, and it's almost like you have to do it because you want people to see that you are good at your job. But I also cringe doing it.
Yeah. So for me personally, I say this all the time. Not every time I post, but very often when I'm posting something, whether it's just a basic post on a CTC or it's an actual video, there's some cringe to it, right? I like to say I lose a little bit of my soul every time that I post. But it's necessary.
But it is
to grow
important.
your
I look
business.
at when I see your story post, I got to clear to close in 12 days or whatever. That keeps you on the top of my mind also,
Precisely. And
so
that's the
it
point
works.
of it. That's the point.
I think there's just that balance of are you bragging because it's helping your business, or are you just bragging to me because you want to flex that you've been in the business X amount of years? Does it matter? Does it matter in our conversation? I feel like that's
typically no. Typically it's someone's way of saying you have to believe everything that I say and literally not question everything that I say. But I use social media the exact way that you just described it, because mortgage content, of course, we can make it more interesting, but it's not the most exciting. However, it's exactly what you said. It's a top of mind tool. That's really all that it is. It's just I post once, 2 times a day so people see, stay top of mind, and potentially keep me in mind for business. That's all that it is. So on the subject of social media, you are very, very good at it. Where have you found the most success?
Doing Instagram Reels. I feel like that feature being added by Instagram totally changed the exposure for really anybody, whatever your niche is.
Do you have a particular approach to them?
So I would say that my reels are more just, I look for something to make real estate more entertaining or a little bit more relatable. Something that somebody could see it, and whether they've never bought a house in their life or sold a house in their life, they could just appreciate the humor in it, or something in the quick video. I mean, reels are so short, and actually the shorter they are, the better. So
in terms of view count and engagement.
Yeah. So, our attention spans as a society have gotten shorter
Terrible.
And shorter and shorter. And I see it in myself, and it makes me sad, but it is what it is.
But it's everyone.
Yeah.
But
you have to catch people's attention in the first 2 seconds of them even scrolling past your video. So I really, I know a lot of realtors do reels to educate, which I think is great. That really hasn't been my approach, in the sense of I'm not really doing my voice speaking about real estate topics. I'll take a funny trending audio and then use it to a topic. So hopefully it'll educate you through humor.
Which gets much more engagement and more views, candidly.
I think so.
Because educational stuff, well, what do they call it? Edutainment. Yeah, edutainment, mixing it up. Because even I've noticed my own stuff where it's just straight spitting facts about, you need 3.5% down payment. You need 25% down payment for this. It's not engaging for them. It's not interesting. So mixing it up is the way to go. But do you have a particular, let's say, Diana, you're okay, today I need to make 1 to 5 reels, and you've got,
I wish I was that good.
Yeah. we'll call it 1 or 2.
1.
But do you have a particular process that you follow, or how you come up with the ideas and actually implement them?
So my process is, I honestly just save reels as I'm scrolling through my own Instagram. doing what everybody else does, laying in bed at night scrolling through Instagram. I just save, like, sometimes I will see it's already like a real estate trend, but sometimes it's just like a totally random audio from something else. I'm like, oh, I could use that, and then I just save it. So I have a bunch of reels saved that I don't do because I fall behind on them. But
is it accidental though? Like you're coming across it and you're just like, okay, I could use this potentially to educate on this subject, or are you mentally going through it like, okay, I need to come up with X amount of ideas, let's spend 20 minutes going through it?
To be honest, I'm not that organized, so it's really just like scrolling.
But that's fair. Yeah, we want the honest raw truth.
The honest raw truth is that I probably spend too much time scrolling.
Yeah,
but
as do most people though.
I use it to my advantage and just save things, and then when I have the time and I can do it, I'll go back and see which ones, which ones do I feel like doing today? Sometimes I even forget what I saved, so I just go back and I'm like, what did I want to do with this one? And then I'm like, oh, yeah. But also what's funny about Instagram that I didn't realize at first when I started saving things is that the trend changes so quickly.
Yeah.
So I'll save a reel, and then, 3 weeks go by where I'm too busy and I didn't record anything, and then I go like to see what I saved. I'm like, this is not even trending anymore. Like, it's so on the moment. Yeah. But like
which is also hard to do. It takes discipline. Sometimes you have to be in the mood to do it.
Yeah.
If you're not I don't have this problem, but if you're having a bad hair day or whatever, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you're just not like in the zone to do it.
Absolutely. For me, it definitely takes like setting in my head, like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to do reels.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, when you are busy, and thankfully I have been busy right now, it falls to the bottom of my priority list, which sucks because social media is so important as far as your marketing, your branding, keeping you in mind, keeping you on top of people's minds. But when you're like busy showing and making offers and emails and calls and blah, blah, like it really does fall to the bottom.
Yeah.
It's hard to do everything. But
same on my side, so don't feel so bad. It's normal because you have to prioritize. If you have a client calling you, you're not going to be
do you have active business?
Yeah,
or are you,
wait, I have to make a reel. Sorry, we can't place this offer right now. Like,
exactly.
No, of course.
The Instagram or Facebook or whatever you use is basically like the modern day lead generation. So, you do have to dedicate time to that. And there's people that are so disciplined with, like, if their lead gen is doing cold calls, they'll set every day from like 9 to 12 or whatever to do cold calls.
Yep.
It's hard to take social media, for me at least, that seriously where I make it like on a schedule. But I actually would like to force myself, like discipline myself to whether it's like on a Monday, because I kind of tend to take Mondays at least a little bit quieter. Usually it's like the weekend has been crazy busy and Monday's kind of my day to like, we're submitting offers or waiting to hear back on offers or whatever. Showings are usually quiet on Mondays, so I'm hoping to like create a schedule for myself where I am more diligent about using social media because there's such a huge potential in it.
Do you find that it attracts particular type of leads?
So I have gotten buyer leads from social media because I feel like it probably attracts people more in the what are we, millennials? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I would say that it attracts more millennials who are more likely to be the buyers right now than the sellers. So I would say I've gotten buyer leads from, or even like a rental lead from Instagram, but I haven't gotten any seller leads. But I don't expect that as much because, again, the age demographic that is watching my content is not that they're not going to be selling ever, but it's probably just not the main.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But what about the quality of the leads themselves? In terms of, when I say quality, I don't mean like qualifications, but seriousness.
I mean, I think you could kind of tell like who's DMing you because they're serious or who's DMing you with just like a random question.
Yeah.
That's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, plus,
and I think at the beginning I was answering everybody, right? Because it's like you want to make sure that you don't miss any potential leads. But now I've kind of I'm like, this doesn't feel like a real conversation.
Yeah, after you do it a bunch of times, if they're just wasting your time, they're bored, there's some creepy dude, right? Which we've spoken about in the past, the abundance of creepy dudes online.
There's always like hey, let me get your number because I need to talk to you about real estate. And I'm like,
sure. Yeah, let's go to a candlelit dinner tonight and just, tell me about buying a home. It's, do better, men. I mean...
But I have gotten quality leads. I've had buyer consultations with people that maybe weren't just ready in the moment, but they just see that I am active because I'm always posting like showings and stuff like that, or inspections, accepted offers, things like that. So they're just, again, brand awareness.
So you get both.
Yeah. I've gotten serious leads from it.
Yeah, good. So it works. But I think,
work.
Diana, that's also the beauty, and it's good for people to hear, especially other realtors, because well, even as a loan officer myself, right? Like, we think that we have to be on it 24/7. You're doing it fairly casually. You're prioritizing your main business over social, and you're still having success with it. So I think that's nice, because most people don't begin because they think it's like, oh, I have to do it every day, and it's so daunting, and it's basically another job in itself. And listening to you, it's not the case.
It definitely depends what your goals are. Like, if you want to create like a really big social media presence, you do have to be consistent, because the algorithm is just very unforgiving. But if you are doing it to just kind of stay on top of people's minds, it doesn't take all the time. Even I've had, like, I'll post at a showing, right, like a quick little video, like a boomerang of the house. Yeah. And someone from high school messaged me and was like, I was literally just looking at that house on Zillow. Could we meet up to talk about it?
Awesome.
So it's things like that. Or like, I closed a lead from an agent in New Jersey that we connected on Instagram, and she was like, oh, you're in Westchester. She sent me a referral lead. So you just never know what's going to come from it. So dedicate time, but I can't say that I'm as disciplined as I would like to be.
Yeah, but that's really my point, is that you can have success with it and still just approach it very, very casually, which is, I'm somewhere in between that, but you've also got a lot of agents and a lot of loan officers that are full into it and they're having success. But again, that's not the point.
But also, can I make one point? I feel like...
No, you can't. No, of course.
Something that I feel is really important is just seeing, like, yes, consistency is good, but also pay attention to, is it working or not? Like, if you give it an extended amount of time and it doesn't seem to be working for whatever you expect it to be, whether that's like viewership going up or leads or whatever, like, maybe you're not posting something that's like catching people's eye, or like maybe it's interesting to you because you're in the business, but maybe it's not interesting to other people. Like, I feel like some people just get so stuck in, I was told I have to post every day to be, consistent, so I'm just going to post, like, whatever. Like, does it actually make sense for what you want? And I think that's, like, an important point.
You have to adapt if it's not working. So, which also takes, you have to look at yourself objectively with no ego,
and it's
which
hard.
A lot of people aren't good at doing.
It's hard, but it's like, if I post, this, does anybody care about this? And, like... And sometimes they don't, and then I have to just be honest and be like, no, that didn't work. Yeah. But am I going to keep doing something that didn't work, or am I going to try to change it up?
Yeah, the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing with expecting a different result. So, okay, so you're crushing social. You're awesome. We get that. We get it, Diana. Anything else you'd like to touch on that you think our audience would benefit from hearing from you?
Just... if you are in the market to buy or to sell, honestly, find a realtor that you trust. Try to take their advice and be patient.
And on that note again, Diana, what areas do you, for those listening, like, where do you specialize in if people want to get in contact with you?
So my main base is Westchester County, specifically Lower Westchester, but with so much movement and COVID changing people's, like, flexibility with work and stuff, I definitely have begun to do more work in, like, Upper Westchester, even the edges of Orange, Rockland, Putnam County, like, not too deep into the counties, but just out of Westchester.
Cool. Okay.
And I would say have patience. Definitely have patience, because this market is not for the weak of heart.
No, but we are experiencing a shift.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Where that's going to go, we'll have to wait and see, because it's interesting, because it's a time where prices are continuing to rise despite rates going up. And the demand is cooling off, but not to the level where people expected it. I'm still seeing a lot of homes go way over asking.
I don't think it's going to be this huge crash that a lot of people expect. And I think, you know what? That's actually some of the most frustrating clients are the ones that are, like, so insistent that this, like, that this bubble is going to burst any day now, without really understanding the factors that have led to where we are, because it's not the same as it has been in the past.
This isn't 2008, because that's everyone's most recent memory, right? It's going to be like 2008, but if you look at the data over the past, I think 60, 70 years, home prices have only decreased twice. and I think one was 2008, the other time was in the early 70s. But other than that, they've been stable if they've increased. So if you're expecting another crash, I mean, maybe you get lucky, but doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it, and but as far as the market shift, yes, I feel like things are still going for over asking, but at least the gap between the asking price and what's getting accepted, I think, is getting a little smaller. At least in my market, things aren't going for as crazy over asking, which is good. Or like
You're giving people hope, Diana.
I have hope.
We all do. We all do. But business.
Well,
is still
everyone
moving.
thinks that like we love this, super crazy, and yes, it's busy, but I find that it can be more work with less closings, because it's so competitive that it gets if you're working with buyers, it's extremely hard for us as well. I mean, we want you to get the house.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows on the realtor and loan officer side, that's for sure. It's a lot of work. All right, so Diana, where can people reach you if they want to reach you?
So on Instagram at Romero Realty _. Same thing on Facebook.
Biggity bang. Diana, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Peace out.